This is Story Recapped. Today I'm going to explain a drama and sci-fi show called Electric Dreams: Impossible Planet. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. A group of tourists marvels at an interstellar phenomenon known as the Hermagon Ultra. As the audience gazes upon the dance of space dust, their tourist guide Norton sits at the control deck, providing information about the event. Suddenly, the clouds turn dark, and Norton's computer warns him that the cloud's density is increasing, which causes the low visibility. To appease the customers, Norton adds a filter to the screen to intensify the color, thus earning a surprised gasp from the tourists. With that, Norton ends a statement that the Hermagon Aurora's beauty is enough to make people believe in God again. After the show, guests exit the sightseeing spaceship, Dreamweaver 9. Norton heads to the office where he gives his co-worker Andrews the day's reports and surveys, which include one customer complaining about the sound quality. He points out that Andrews needs to fix the speaker, but Andrews just flips him off in response. Norton then notices moaning sounds from Andrews' computer, so the man discreetly closes the video he was watching. As Andrews lists their scheduled sightseeing tours for next week, Norton decides to hurry home to his girlfriend, Barbara. Before he leaves, Andrews asks if Norton's transfer to Primo Central has been confirmed, commenting that Barbara dreams of a high life. However, Norton shares that the transfer isn't confirmed yet, but he's hopeful. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. Andrews points out that they're closed, but the person on the other side is persistent. Since he's leaving anyway, Norton answers the door and is surprised to see an old woman at their doorstep. Seeing her face triggers a vision in Norton about a bicycle, but he snaps out of it and explains to the woman that they're already closed. An android named RB29 speaks up, saying that its owner, Irma Gordon, is deaf. The woman demands to be given a tour, so Norton asks the android to tell her to come back next week instead. When it doesn't respond, Norton heads to the office to take a pamphlet for her to check their available destinations, but Irma insists on taking on a tour to Earth. Hearing this, Andrews intervenes, noting that what she wants is crazy, since Earth no longer exists. Still, RB29 explains that Irma is 324 years old, and she flew their craft from Riga too, urging them to fulfill her request. RB29 adds that Irma is willing to pay 2 kilo positives in cash, which catches the men's attention. With that, Andrews begins researching Earth, which was destroyed by a solar flare. Andrews also searches for any tour destinations that could match the planet's appearance and chooses M43, the third planet in another solar system with one moon. Norton points out that it's a dead rock with no oxygen, but Andrews argues that the woman only wants to see it, not to set foot on it. Norton refuses to trick the woman, but Andrews insists that they'll be just giving the woman what she wants. He plots to cancel all their tours for next week by claiming that the ship is damaged so they can give Irma her private tour. He insists on keeping it off the books, so he and Norton can split the money and earn a 5-year salary in 1 week. Still, Norton refuses as it might jeopardize his chances at Primo Central. As he's walking away, he receives a call from Barbara, who tells him to check his vidmail. Norton checks and opens a vidmail from Linus Primo, telling him his transfer has been rejected. With that, Barbara complains that they've been on the planet for 4 years, when they were supposed to leave after 2. Now that Norton was rejected from Primo Central again, she realizes that they'd be staying much longer. Norton promises to take care of things, but Barbara insists that Primo Central doesn't care about him, and he can't change their minds. The rejection from Primo Central and his girlfriend's disappointment push Norton into agreeing with Andrews' plan. Aboard the Dreamweaver 9, they give Irma a tour towards Alpha Centauri, where they're supposed to show her the planet Earth. However, Norton's control panel shows that their destination is M43. When Norton gives Irma her complimentary drink, Irma starts reminiscing about her grandmother, Laura, who told her about life on Earth. Laura lived in a cabin that was near the Elk River Falls, where she and her husband Bill would swim. Laura claimed it was the best feeling she'd ever had, so Irma longs to see that place and swim there. Hence, this is where Irma wants them to take her. Norton asks her android to tell her they can't take her there, but Irma continues rambling about how Earth has changed, but she believes that Elk River Falls is one place that chooses not to change. After the woman has fallen asleep in the lobby, RB29 starts questioning how there isn't any other crew. There was no paperwork before they left. Norton waves off its questions and insists that this is what Irma wants. RB29 stresses that Irma has a heart condition and will die in 2 months. Therefore, this is her last trip. This makes Norton feel guilty, but he hides it and simply leaves. The next evening, Norton delivers Irma's drink to her cabin. Hoping to converse with him, she uses a communication device to help translate his words. She asks about Norton, so he shares that he was born on Primo 76, but he hoped to eventually move to Primo Central with his girlfriend. He's been with Barbara for 5 years, so Irma asks why they haven't been married yet. Norton explains that he plans to, but he's waiting for the right time. Irma wonders if he loves her, and Norton quickly says he does, though she notices that he seems hesitant. He just excuses that he feels like he's being interrogated in court, so Irma teases him that he sounds like he's not so sure. Thinking this, Norton admits that though he loves Barbara, they don't always want the same thing. Seeing his expression, Irma concludes that Barbara wants to be in Primo Central, but Norton wants something else. This makes Norton see the vision of riding a bicycle with someone, but he pulls himself from the vision again and excuses himself to leave. Clocking out for the night, Andrews puts the ship on autopilot and sleeps in the cockpit, not noticing that RB-29 is just outside. The android hacks into the system to unlock the cockpit and discovers that their destination is M43. Realizing that they've been tricked, the android's eyes turn red. The following day, the ship closes in on the M43 solar system, making Irma happy. Resting in the cockpit, Norton asks Andrews what he plans to do with his money. Andrews considers retiring early and taking a tour to experience being a passenger. He then suggests Norton use the money to marry Barbara and move to Primo Central, since that's what he's always wanted. When Norton doesn't respond, Andrews assures him that he deserves it. Suddenly, Norton suggests telling Irma the truth, feeling guilty over ripping her off so that he can move somewhere he actually doesn't want to go. Andrews claims they're not ripping her off because they're creating her dream, like artists. Norton corrects him that they're con artists, but Andrews doesn't see anything wrong with it. He defends that they present tourists with enhanced versions of celestial events to give them a piece of what they're dreaming of. Norton, however, sees this as selling pre-digested happiness when they could give people something more. Before Andrews can answer, they receive an alarm from Irma's cabin. Norton gets up to tend to her, but Andrews insists on him not saying anything to her. When he gets to her cabin, Norton finds Irma struggling to button her robe as RB-29 doesn't know how to clasp a hook and eye. Noting the old-fashioned attire, Irma explains that it's her grandmother's robe from Earth, which she hopes to wear when she visits the planet. As he helps her dress up, Irma recounts how her grandfather did the same for her grandmother. She recounts how people from Earth were so eager for an adventure into the unknown, thinking that they might reach God in space. She asks if Norton thinks that they can reach God, and he admits that he did when he was a kid. He recalls dreaming of breaking into new universes, since there were still corners that they hadn't reached yet. However, the entirety of space has now been charted, so there are no more mysteries. Irma disagrees, because there will always be mystery in humans. Suddenly, Andrews announces that they've entered the solar system and will reach Earth soon. Irma then asks her android to leave as she wants to talk to Norton privately. Once alone, Irma admits that she's nervous. She asks Norton how she looks and he replies that she looks beautiful, though he realizes that she can't understand him because she's not looking at her device. However, Irma reveals that she did hear him, as she hears some people better than others. The woman then kisses him and calls him a gentleman before showing him something. Taking a picture frame from her belongings, Irma tells him that it's from her grandmother and grandfather. When she turns the photo to him, Norton is surprised that her grandfather Bill looks exactly like him. Irma reveals that she had a dream about him, and she thinks he had a dream about her too. Confused, Norton heads to a computer room to call Barbara. He finally confesses that he never wanted to move to Primo Central and only agreed to work for it because it's what Barbara wanted. With this revelation, he asks if she actually wants to be with him, or if she simply wants the life she pictured for them. Barbara refuses to discuss it, but Norton insists, asking if she ever dreamed about him. When she doesn't respond, Norton concludes that she doesn't, so he admits that he doesn't dream about her anymore either. Heartbroken, Barbara asks if he has met someone else. She then demands that he return home, but the screen glitches and shows Norton the moment when Irma kissed him. Once the connection returns, Norton decides to drop the call despite Barbara's protests. Later, Irma and Norton return to the lobby just as Andrews announces that they're passing by Mars. However, Irma points out that it's wrong because Mars is supposed to be red, not green. Andrews says that she must be confused, but Irma argues that her mind is still sharp and knows Mars is red. She asks Norton to make Andrews stop treating her like a fool, while Andrews speaks to him from their intercom, ordering him not to tell her the truth. Before he can say anything, however, RB-29 steps in to reveal something to Irma. It tells her that 60 years ago, an electromagnetic event in the solar system caused major radioactive damage to Saturn, Mars, and Venus. This caused Saturn to lose its rings, Mars to turn green, and Venus to become yellow and gain one ring. Irma turns to Norton, asking if this is true. With no choice, he says that it is, excusing that they didn't tell her because they weren't sure how she'd react. Spotting a yellow planet nearby, Irma is convinced that this is Venus and marvels at it. Continuing with a lie, Norton adds that the radioactive event also changed Earth. Not wanting to read further, Irma closes her communication device and decides that as long as it's Earth, she'll feel something. Finally, Irma sees a glimpse of what she believes is the planet Earth. She asks to get closer, but Andrews discreetly warns Norton that they can't. Still, the woman feels overwhelmed and asks to hold Norton's hand as she gazes upon the planet where her grandmother was born. Despite seeing its condition, Irma searches for her grandmother's hometown since it should still be green and blue. Hurriedly, Andrews checks the console for something he can create for the woman. On the other hand, Norton tells Irma that they may not be able to see it. Irma insists that it's still there, so she asks Norton to close his eyes with her. Just in time, Andrews uses a filter on their window to turn M43 into a more lively blue color. Seeing this, Irma demands them to land the ship and let her be on Earth for one sweet moment. Andrew insists that they can't, but Norton promises her that they'll land on Earth, hoping to make the woman's dreams come true. The Dreamweaver 9 soon plummets into M43, experiencing turbulence as they go. Andrews complains that it's not safe, but Norton insists on continuing. After locking in the landing process, the two strap onto their seats while Irma keeps her eyes locked ahead, awaiting the land she dreams of. As soon as they land, an explosion occurs. The ship is broken, and Norton checks on Irma, seeing the woman unconscious. Fortunately, she wakes up and gazes out the window where the color has turned dull. From the intercom, Norton learns that they lost the color mixer. RB-29 tells Irma that they simply landed in the wrong area, so they must fly and land again. However, Andrew stresses that it's dangerous and their tour is strictly for spectating only. When RB-29 still demands to take Irma where she wants to go, Andrews warns that they must leave if they want to return home safely. Turning to Norton, he announces that they only stay for an hour before he leaves. Despite this, Norton decides to take things further. Taking spacesuits from a supply closet, he presents Irma with a chance to walk on Earth. Before doing so, however, she shows him the same attire that Bill wore in his photo, which is the same as Norton is wearing in his visions. Dressed and geared up, the two later exit the ship and walk onto the storm-ridden planet while RB-29 watches. Andrews returns to the lobby, so RB-29 tells him that Irma is resting. Alone with the android, Andrews confronts it about knowing the truth. However, RB-29 thinks that no one knows the truth, but to Irma, this planet is Earth. Suddenly, Andrews starts complaining about a headache and notices that something's wrong with the temperature control, as it's too hot in the ship. He asks for Norton, but he's outside, holding Irma's hand as they traverse the land. Realizing this, Andrews warns him that the suits only have auxiliary tanks. When this doesn't convince his co-worker, he confesses to Irma, but RB-29 reminds him that she's deaf. Andrews confronts the android, ordering it to get the two back. However, RB-29's eyes glow red as it reveals that it knows that they tricked Irma. Outside, Norton starts hearing birds chirping. From the intercom, Andrews warns him that they only have less than 30% of oxygen left, so they have to turn back. However, the two are entranced by what they're seeing. Norton announces that they found a forest, but Andrews insists that they return, otherwise he'll leave without them. Irma hears water flowing, while Andrews continues watching their oxygen levels drop until they reach zero. Thinking that the two are dead, Andrews turns to RB-29. Despite this, Irma and Norton find themselves well. While Norton isn't looking, Irma removes her helmet. She turns to him, and Norton sees that she's turned younger. In a flash of light, Norton finds himself in a lush forest with a waterfall behind him. An image of Irma's grandmother, Laura, invites him to take a dip in the water, so Norton removes his suit, resembling Bill, under his helmet. He then joins her, passing by the bicycle he'd been dreaming about. The two dive into the beautiful water, enjoying the dreamlike world that none can take from them anymore.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.